What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to episode 32 of the U.S.S. Enterprise D tutorial. I'm Zero Elite, and I just want to thank you very much for tuning in today's episode. If you haven't, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, helping me in supporting the channel. I can't thank you enough for that. Today we have about a 27-minute video. We're going to be focusing on the engines today and trying to get um, not all the detailing done on them, but pretty much the majority of the detailing that you'll see up in until the teaser trailer that I put out a little while ago. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. And first things first, we're going to be going one back from the gray line on the engines and then deleting 2 rows directly behind that, because this is essentially where the yellow strip that wraps around the engines is going to go. We're going to be doing this to both the left side and right side engine. Once we come back, or once we complete our full circle, we'll go back with the yellow concrete and fill all this in, going one inwards this way. There's a nice little cut line to differentiate the two so it doesn't look so flat. Gives the engines a little bit more shape to them. Now on this bottom side here, you can see I'm going to be deleting that as well, because that second row right there is technically where, well, not technically, that's where the yellow concrete's going to be going. So that's why I'm deleting those top 2, or those 2 rows. Okay, we're in good shape. We're going to hop over to the left side, and now we're going to repeat that same process. I was thinking about this video when I was editing this morning. Originally I was actually going to break this up into 2 episodes, but then I saw the length of the last bit of it, and I was like, well, you know what, it's okay, we'll just do a 27-minute video today and just get pretty much the last of the work done for the engines for just right now. Once we have a little, after this episode, we have a little bit more work to do directly underneath them, where the piece between the engines and pylons meet, and then of course we have to work on the remaining parts of the outside of the ship that's not done yet. Then we'll be going over to the interior, and from the interior we'll be inside the ship pretty much probably until the end of the build. Then we'll be popping back outside, and we'll be getting the detailing done. There's a lot of detailing that I want to get done on this ship, because I really want to bring it to life. And the Enterprise D has a ton of different bits of detailing on it, and we'll really be able to use that to our advantage, adding things here and there to make the ship pop. But this is just going to be kind of like the beginnings of that. But we're not going to be getting too heavy into it in today's episode. Really, my main point in building this stuff out is because all this stuff that we're adding now, like, it really is, it's part of the shape of the ship in a lot of ways. Between the yellow that we're going to be adding, and we'll be building the red dome for the very front of the engines, that will be completed today. And then there's also the blue curve that is directly behind the yellow strip, that we'll be building that out today too, and that will actually be wrapping up today's episode and this episode for the week. But I was surprised how well this came out. All things considered, I was actually really happy with how these engines looked. I mean, the ship, it's really starting to come together pretty well. And even where I'm at now on the interior, everything is just kind of coming together, and I'm really happy with the progress that I'm making on it, even though we're going to be working on this thing for a while. But that's okay. Like, it's all starting to finally come together, and I'm hoping to have one of the more detailed Enterprise Ds on Minecraft. I don't know if I'll be so bold to say that's the most detailed, because there's always going to be someone better than you, but I think we're going to be up there as far as the quality of this build. So now we've gotten the left side done with the yellow, we're going to be doing the same thing on the right side. not doing anything too fancy. We're just building one down from the cut line and still going with the cut line. And as long as you're doing that, no mistakes can be made. And I was talking about it in yesterday's episode. Be sure to drop a comment below on what rooms you want to see me add for the Enterprise D for the interior, because I'm actually in the thick of working on that right now, and definitely want to, if there's something that you want to see me do, ask me while I'm doing it, because once we get the inside of the ship completed, really not going to be going back to the inside. Like, we'll be moving on to the outside, and then when that's done, this thing will be a done deal. We'll be moving on to the next ship after this build. And so definitely drop those comments below. Let me know what rooms you want to see me add on the Enterprise D. I'm trying to think outside the box on different rooms that I want to add. I was talking a little bit about this in a couple of my last episodes, that I'm really starting to try to think about more what you would see just generally inside of a city, because that's pretty much what the Enterprise D is. It's a moving city pretty much in space. So think outside the box on that. If you come up with any cool ideas, let me know in the comments section. Definitely love to hear from you, and also let me know what ships you want to see me build after this. Had quite a few people ask me for Voyager. That's more than likely what the next build's going to be, but still I don't want to commit on that until we actually get into it. But yeah, we definitely got some cool stuff coming out. So now, since we finished the yellow, we're going to be transitioning on to building the front of the front piece of the engine, the red dome. And as you can see, I'm just building off of the dead center, the two middle blocks. We're going to be swapping out the bottom side for red, and then we're going to do the top side. We're just going to work our way out and do this little by little by little. And you can see I'm going to skip that very last row here, where this row here meets up with the gray. So we're going to be stopping just one shy of that. That's looking pretty good. Now we're going to do the top side. Now, I'm not going to lie, originally, I was actually just going to do these two rows and then be done with it. And we're going to zoom out and take a look at it. It actually doesn't look that bad like that. So, I mean, if that's something that you want to do and you think that looks better, by all means, go for it. I'm not going to lie, I really consider it. Yeah, looking at that, I mean, it looks very clean, but I got to be honest, I think what we're ultimately going to fall on by the end of today's episode, I do think it looks a little bit better. I think what I have going on here is maybe a little bit more simple, but sometimes, less is more, and if that's something that you're into, feel free to keep it just the way it is after we add this two rows on the right side, or excuse me, I should say left side I did. But we're going to be doing a lot more to it. We're just going to be taking our time and doing it little by little, because past this point, I really didn't have much of a plan as far as how I wanted to shape or swap out some of these white quartz blocks for the red concrete. So once we get this row done, then we're going to pan back and take a look, and then we're going to start trimming away and swapping out a few more of these blocks for the red. Hey, see, I mean, that doesn't look bad. But to me, like, that's not necessarily the Enterprise D. That this red piece should be a little bit more bold than what it is. But it does not look bad. So I think the easiest thing to do at this point is to start from the front and work our way to the sides. So we're going the next cut line up from our red line. You can see I just tried to do that one side there, but that strip right there directly behind it of the white, we're going to be swapping that out also. And this is right when my battery died, so I need to swap out my battery real quick from the recording, and then we'll be rocking and rolling. And this line right here, this was messing with me. You can see that I tried deleting those two blocks. That looks funky to me. We're going to put them back, and then the bottom row directly underneath that, we're going to swap that out to the red. That doesn't look too bad. Looks pretty good. Alright, now let's do the same thing on the other side, and then we have to do the underside of this, and then we have to do the right side engine. Just going one down. We're not building any further down at this point. Want to make sure every single concrete block or every single white quartz block that we're swapping or deleting, that we're swapping that out with the red. So you see that's why I'm doing it immediately afterwards. This is just to save myself from possibly making a mistake, because it could easily happen during these builds. We got a couple more rows to do, and then we're going to zoom out and take a look at and see how it looks so far. I've got to do that right there. That's 3, and then on the other side as well. So that looks pretty good. Definitely looks better than the way it looked before, I think. Gives it a more three-dimensional shape, I think, than the way I was looking before. Before it was just more of like a slit, and when you look at like a 3D model of the Enterprise D or physical model or picture, especially like in the engines, like it really, it's not a slit at all. Alright. So now we know what we need to do. It's going to be a little bit easier now to build this out. At this point, it's just repeating the same process, but on the other side, and swapping out these blocks. Let's knock this out just a little bit faster than the first go-around. And we need to do front. Alright, now we need to do this front row here now too. Yeah, I mean, it's really not even complicated what I'm doing. You know, we're not changing the look of we're not changing the shape of the ship. We're literally just swapping out, you know, these white quartz for the red in certain spots. We've got one more side to do. Alright, we're rocking. Now let's zoom out and take a look and see how she's looking so far. Yeah, see, to me that looks so much better. It gives the red dome piece, gives a little bit more size and shape to it rather than just being a slit. That looks fantastic. Especially from the front. I mean, it really sells it that these are the Enterprise D engines. not gonna lie, I've actually really enjoyed this build to the point that I have thought about building this ship in Starship Evo. I really have, because after building it, and even to the point that I'm at now, I was like, man, like, it's such a shame I can't fly this thing around and do something with it. But still, I'm taking a break from Starship Evo right now. I'm waiting for them to add a little bit more content before I jump back into that game. But I fully intend to get back into Starship Evo. I just want a little bit more out of the game before I'm gonna get back into it. It also gives me some time to focus my building efforts right now on the Enterprise D, because this thing is such a massive build that it's requiring the majority of my attention when I have the free time to get on here to do building. You can see we're going with a cut line, one directly behind the yellow strip, and I'm just doing this to keep it consistent with the front and to split up the white from the yellow. This is going to make the yellow pop just a little bit more when you have a darker color as opposed to a lighter color. Not like we can't see it, we can, but it's going to pop out a lot more to you, especially like when you look at this side as opposed to the other side without that strip. It doesn't pop out as much as it does with this with the gray. It looks a lot better. Alright, so now we did the left side. Now we just need to do the right side. And once we get done with today's episode, we'll pretty much be caught up as far as the engines go with how they looked in the teaser trailer. Still have more work to do on them. But after today's episode, I felt confident enough that I could at least walk away from them and focus on other areas of the ship. To get the rest of the ship where it needs to be, so this way when we do start panning back around and do the detailing on the outside, at this point it's just swapping out blocks and we're not changing any of the overall design of it, which is kind of similar to what we're doing now, but what we'll be doing when we detail towards the end, it won't be as drastic as some of the stuff that we're doing now. Yeah, so that looks fantastic with the gray strip. Definitely separates the two colors up a little bit. Alright. Now we're going to be transitioning to the last part of today's episode. Like I said, I decided to stop that blue strip just one more shy of that gray line, just to split them up a little bit, because I was looking at my 3D model, the Enterprise D, and these lines, blue lines, they don't come directly up to that yellow like that. There was a tiny bit of a gap in between them, so I was trying to replicate that. It's one of the things I talk about when you're trying to figure out your detailing, what you're going to do. Just look at your source material, look at pictures of the ship, or look at the 3D model at different angles, and just, you know, spend some time to get to know the different areas of the ship, because these areas, they're going to help you to identify your details, because it's all like the detail is all in the eye, what you're able to point out and catch that are defining traits on the ship. And like what we're going to be adding right now, the curve of the blue, this is something that's so iconic on the Enterprise D. Without it, it would really make the engines fall apart. I mean, not physically, but in an artistic sense, they would totally fall apart, because we wouldn't be staying true to how the ship actually looks. And that, like, it goes hand in hand with like what I say with like the interiors when we're doing the interiors, you know, staying true to your details and like using those design cues. We're pretty much doing the same thing here. We're using our design cues that we're seeing from looking at our reference material to translate that over into the physical ship. zoom back and see how that looks. So far, so good. Don't want to bring that cut line up too high though, because that swish that we're making is really not that big. I think what we're going to do, we're just going to go in a pattern of 2 as we transition downward. That looks pretty good. So we're just going to repeat that same process again. Now we're going to zoom out, take a look at it, see how she's looking. I like it enough that I'm going to pop over to the other side and start it up, just so I don't get too far ahead of myself on one side. Right now we're going to hop over to this side, we're going to do the same thing. I actually kind of got overzealous rather than completing the right side engine. You can see I popped already over to the other side. I meant to start it and then go back over. Now, I mean, I guess at this point it really doesn't matter, but we need to make sure that we're completing all 4 sides of this pattern that we're adding. And I say 4 because this pattern we're doing it twice on top and then twice on bottom on each engine. It's going to be the only area that we're going to be removing this white half slabs, because it's going to look weird with this whole middle piece, swapping that out to blue. There's pretty much everything between the outline, we're going to be swapping that out to blue. Alright, now we're going to go back over to the right side engine and continue where we left off. And again, we're just going in a pattern of 2 as we transition down. As long as you do that, you can't make any mistakes. And just take your time with it. If you need to pause the episode to catch up, pause the episode. That's kind of the way I look at it. You know, I'd rather take my time on it rather than having to go back and rebuild the thing 20 or 30 times, because I just rushed right through it, you know. Because, I mean, it's hard to believe I've been working on this ship since February, and I'll probably be working on it for the next couple of months before we're done. But at this point, it's not a race. I'd rather do it right and walk away from it completely satisfied with what we built, rather than just blow right through it and do something that was basically half-assed. Yeah, see that cut line, that's looking so smooth, and it's going to look fantastic when it's done. Now at this point, it's just a matter of filling in the parts in between with the blue. I want to make sure we're not doing the outside of this outline. We only want to do the inside, because we want to maintain that shape that we just spent all this time cutting out. So far, so good. Yeah, I mean, today, I guess, is not necessarily really a complicated part of the build, but nonetheless, this is still going to be vital because what we're going to be doing today is really going to help sell the overall look of the Enterprise D. And the engines are like, I mean, they're so iconic and important to this build that you really got to take the time to get them right. Yes, that looks great. You zoom out and take a look at that. I mean, that's spot on with the engines for the Enterprise D. I'll go so far as to say probably I think that out of the builds that I've done so far, I think that these the engines that I did on the Enterprise D, they came out the cleanest out of any of the ones that I've done in the past, um, and they came out the closest to how they should look. All my other ships, I mean, while they look pretty good, and some people might argue that and be like, well, you know, I think you're just being hard on yourself. Well, the engines on your other ships, they look fantastic too, and that might be the case. But I don't know. Like when you zoom out and you take a look at these engines, even though they're not done, there's still more detailing to do. I mean, it screams Enterprise D. It really does, and it looks exactly how it's supposed to look. All right, we got a couple more rows to do, and then we're actually going to be done today. Did not feel like we just ran through a 27-minute episode. But we've been getting some stuff done. Alright. And boom, just like that, the detailing that we set out to do today is done. And I mean, not to bask in my own awesomeness or any type of egotistical stuff like that, but I mean, tell me that those don't look just like the Enterprise D engines. I mean, this thing is really starting to come together. I'm like, when I see this, like, it makes me excited, and like, I want to hop back on Minecraft and keep building and like getting the ship further along to the point that we're completed. Hopefully, you know, you all are feeling the same thing after we've gotten to this point. Now she's really starting to get the more of the identity of the Enterprise D rather than just the shape of it. So I mean, that's really exciting. But we have to curve our enthusiasm here and take our time. There's no rush. We got all the time in the world to get this thing done right. Um, so I think we're gonna call it quits for this week. We'll pick back up next week and continue on our journey in building out our Enterprise D. But I think that's going to wrap us up today. I just want to thank everybody again for tuning in to today's episode. And if you did enjoy this content, please help me out. Hit that like and subscribe button, helping me in supporting the channel. I can't thank you enough for that. And new subscribers, don't forget to hit notifications on so you always get notified when those new videos drop. And speaking of new videos, you can always catch my new Minecraft videos dropping Tuesdays through Thursdays. Anyway, if you have any questions regarding today's episode, be sure to drop a comment below. Let me know what ships you want to see me build on Minecraft. Let me know what rooms you want to see me add on this build while I'm still working on it. But that's going to wrap it up for me. I just want to thank you all again for tuning in today's episode. I hope everybody has a happy and safe weekend, and I'll catch you on next week's episode.